Welcome to the first week of this course on terrorism and counterterrorism, comparing theory and practice. In the following videos we're going to look at how terrorism has made headlines in the past decades, the definition problem and the essence of terrorism. Let us first have a look at the facts. We hear about terrorism almost every day, and it's a truly global phenomenon, leaving more than 28,000 people dead, according to the statistics used by the United States State Department that are provided by the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism for the year 2015. But not all parts of the world are as much troubled by terrorism as others. Let us have a closer look at the exact numbers. So you see Iraq being number one on the list, with almost 7,000 people killed because of terrorist activities, closely followed by Afghanistan, Nigeria, with about 5,000 people dead. And in Syria there were almost 3,000 fatalities, and in Pakistan, country number 5 on the list, over 1,000 victims. What about other countries? What about the biggest countries in this world? China, India, the United States, Brazil, and the European Union. If we look at the European Union, for instance, we see that Europe's law enforcement agency said that in 2015, 151 people died as a result of terrorist activity in the European Union. That is 151 too many, but it is a very low number compared to that of countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iraq. And the same holds for the United States. According to the statistics of the US State Department, in 2015, 19 US citizens were killed in terrorist activity overseas, and in December, 14 people were killed in the shooting in San Bernardino, California, by supporters of the so-called Islamic State. And India, one of the biggest countries in the world, they face quite a lot of terrorism and have a pretty high number of people killed because of terrorism. Sadly, almost 300 people were killed in terrorist activities. And China, the biggest country in terms of population, had over 50 people killed in terrorist activities in the year 2015. And the most deadly attack was one by a group of knife-wielding men who attacked a mine in the western Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Well, I'm happy to say that Brazil, the largest country in Latin America, had 0 casualties because of terrorism in 2015. Let us now have a look at the graph with all the 10 countries that I mentioned, and you immediately see the enormous difference between the top 5, Iraq, Afghanistan, Nigeria, Syria and Pakistan, and the United States, Brazil, China and the EU. And these differences are quite big. Well, let's put it on a map. The map of terrorism today shows the differences in the impact of terrorism. Well, the map was made by the Institute for Economics and Peace, and it combines the number of incidents, fatalities, injuries and property damage. And it's based on the data of the Global Terrorism Database of Maryland University. So what do you see? You see hotspots in South Asia and in the Middle East, Russia, Northern Africa. But fortunately also you see that many parts of Asia, Southern Africa, America and the European Union are not that frequently troubled by terrorism. In many countries, also the ones where terrorism doesn't happen that often, it ranks high on national political agendas. But the same holds for the international agenda. Large organizations like the UN and NATO and other regional organizations have various policies and programs related to terrorism, especially since 9/11. And in many countries terrorism is considered the biggest or one of the biggest threats, influencing relationships between countries, but also between communities. And some may even argue that we live in a post-9/11 world because of its enormous impact on relationships, on our way of thinking about security. Well, do you agree? Well, it's been over 15 years and there are so many other issues that define our age. Think of the economy, the environment, technological innovations, changing power balances and so many other important issues that have a direct or indirect impact on our lives. A post-9/11 world? I wouldn't call it like that. So what have we learned? Terrorism is a worldwide phenomenon, but there are enormous regional differences, and terrorism has a great impact on peace and security. and therefore some believe that we live in a post-9/11 world. In the next video we're going to look at the history of terrorism, the terrorism before 9/11.